Hey everybody, it's JJamJim, or Triple J, and welcome back to another video in our tutorial series here in City Skylines. Today, we're going to be talking about the budget panel. It's going to be a shorter video, I would guess, because there's not a ton of things to discuss, but some things that can affect your city for better or for worse, and just a way for you to get an idea on how the game functions and how the budget panel can work to your benefit in your city, and just for you to get a little bit better information on how your city is being run and things you can do to improve it. So this map that we are on right now is our Vanilla Valley map that we have just actually, well, we haven't finished it, but we are going to now transition Vanilla Valley into a modded series where we slowly introduce mods. We have not done that yet, but that will be a brand new series coming up very, very soon here on the channel, so stay tuned for that. But the link to the first 40 episodes of this series is in the description below, so be sure to check that out, how we started out building this city purely in vanilla. So I wanted to use this city because it's already a functioning city and something that I have at my disposal that we can check out the budget panel and see how things are working. So if you don't know, the budget panel is down here. It is in your economy tab. So if you pull this up, this is going to be mostly our video today right here in this panel. But if you pull this up, the first thing you'll see is your taxes. And this shows you the 6 different tax brackets, I guess you could say, of your city. So you have your low density, high, low density commercial, high density commercial, industry, and offices, right? And you can tax them all at different rates. So as you can see, I have mine at 12. Now, generally speaking, when I start the game, I set these to 12. When I unlock these, I set them to 12, and I leave them for the remainder of the game. Now, you can set your taxes to whatever you'd like. If you set these to 13, they will start to complain. You cannot set them above 12. 12 is like your threshold. Now, and I've heard people say that if you want to get more people, if you're low on your RCI demand, right? If you just don't have a demand for things, I've heard people mention that if you lower your taxes, you'll get more people to move in. I don't actually think that's how the game functions, but I don't know that for 100%. So if you do know, let me know down in the comment section below, but I do not think that's how the game functions. I don't believe they really necessarily care how the tax system works as long as it's below 13%. Now, down here, you'll see a little bit more breakdown of your income and expenses. This is just sort of an overall of where you're making your residential income, commercial, industrial areas, which is added with the Industries DLC, your public transportation, offices, parks, and your recreation areas, and your weekly road toll income, which also came with Industries. Now, over here, you also see more numbers, kind of breaking down your roads, what you're spending on power, water, trash, unique buildings, your healthcare, education, police, fire, all that stuff is over here, okay? So it shows you your total income and your total expenses. So as you can see, we are making $5,568 more than we're spending per week. Good to know. But below here, and a lot of people I don't think click on these down here too often, but if you click over to here, you can really break down the different levels of housing and the different income and that you are generating from it. And on the right here, it also shows where your income is coming from. So 52% of our total income is coming from our residential zones, which is huge. That's very, very substantial. What's also nice is it breaks down self-sufficient buildings versus all of your buildings. So we do have some self-sufficient buildings, meaning the green cities buildings that come with Green Cities DLC. So it shows a little bit of breakdown of that. Obviously, we've been building in this city for quite a while, so our level 1, level 2 buildings, definitely not as many of those anymore, just because everything has been leveling up over time. Over here, same deal with the commercial as well. You can also, this also splits it between leisure, tourism, and then organic and local produce. And that is another thing that comes with the Green Cities DLC. But as you can see again, low level, not so much. High levels where we're making the most here. And that makes more sense, right? Because the higher the level on your buildings, the more that they're going to spend, because they are very, very happy with where they're living, and they're going to shop more, and they're going to spend more money. Now, what is interesting though, and these are just little things that you can notice in your city, is we're only making 21% of our income from commercial, which seems really low to me. I was a little shocked when I kind of first was popping around in here and doing some research on this city beforehand, that how much more we make from our residents than we do from actually selling products. Now, I don't know if that's indicative of a good or a bad city. I mean, as you can see, we have about $5.5 million in the bank. We're making a decent income per week, so I'm not sure if that is a good number or not. Frankly, I don't actually know. And then lastly here, we have income from industry and office zones. Now, the IT cluster here, that is also part of the Green Cities DLC, where you can have extra kind of tall buildings and things, and that is where we have most of those buildings are in our downtown sector. And so then we have our level 3, our farming, forest, oil, all those things. Now, these are not industrial areas that come with Industries DLC. This is just the zoning that we have done with the forestry and farming specializations. And I don't have any oil, so obviously we're not making any money there. Another thing, only 6% of our income is coming from industrial, so very, very low. So most of the money you're going to be making, potentially, is going to come from your residents. Okay, and then over here, this is our industries area. This tab you'll have if you have the Industries DLC. And this will show you where you're making your income and expenses from certain industries. This bottom portion is our warehouses and our unique factories. So our warehouses that store all of our goods and the amount of exports that we're doing from that. So the majority of your money is going to come from these, because a lot of that stuff's going to get exported, and it's going to be made into unique products that will then be sold to your commercial buildings. So as you can see, we're also not making a ton of money from this as well. It's just a very, very small portion. And if you've played it all with industries, you will notice this profit fluctuates very heavily. See how we're down to negative 729, negative 2,000. Yeah, it's as these fluctuate very dramatically. As we were making 20,000 before, and now we're down to 12. Now we're down to 9. Again, something that's a little bit unclear and hard to kind of pin down with the Industries DLC. Something that I think we're all still kind of working through and figuring out. Now it's climbing back up. It's climbing up to 14,000. Now it's 12. It's just this profit is interesting, and it's kind of hard to determine even when you go into your industries to do it. I don't know if that's a game issue per se and how it's all built, or if it's just something that it could be a workflow problem, but I haven't quite figured that out, and I know that others have been also struggling with really establishing how is this all working. But regardless, that is where you can find that information. Next is public transportation. Now, as you can see right off of the bat here, is kind of a theme in what is happening with our profit. Every single category, every single variation of public transportation is in the negatives. We do not make any money. In fact, we lose a substantial amount of money per week on public transportation. Now, this might look really bad, and you might be thinking, well, Jim, what are you doing? This is just, this is awful. But we're still making some substantial money, and the reason we're making all that money is because it makes citizens happy. Now, the happiness factor is actually going to outweigh the idea of public transportation, and you really just don't make any money doing it, which is unfortunate, but it's kind of the reality of this game. I don't actually know, and I've never tried it or tested it myself, because I don't 100% pay attention to the profit. I know I never make money doing it, but I've never actually tried and made an attempt to try and make money using public transportation. Because you want to get people using it, because you want to take traffic off of your streets, so then you'll have more of your trucks being able to move quicker, moving into your commercial areas and your industrial areas and exporting goods out of the city, and your people can move around faster, so you just get better flow in your city. So it's more valuable to you actually at that point to do it that way. So But, you know, you start looking at some of this stuff. The airport is very, very expensive. Trains are also very expensive. Just all of the track maintenance, different things like that. Even buses. We don't make a ton of money on buses. Our monorail, we're losing $2,000 per week. And the reason for that is, and let me just pop out of this real quick, is we do have monorail in the city. And, you know, think about how expensive it is to mook this track down. Now, I know this track is not very pretty. It is something that we're going to be working on in our modded series to try and make this look a little bit better. But, you know, our monorail is expensive. Think of all this elevated track running all through the city. That's gonna cost some dollars. It is absolutely gonna cost some dollars. Plus we have to keep up these different hubs and all of these stuff, all of the trains. I mean, it is a very expensive venture, but people really like it. A lot of people use it. It's a way for them to get around our city and to keep traffic off of our roads, which is more important to us in the long run, which I know doesn't sound quite right, but that is very much a function of the game. I am sure there is a way to make money potentially on public transportation, but I think you'd have to be very thrifty with it. And I don't know if every form is actually going to make you money like you think. I don't think airports will ever make you enough money. So as you can see over here, a plane only holds about 200 people. So these are 32 passengers who are leaving our city currently. But these airports, the terminals are big. You know, we have a cargo airport as well. It's very expensive. The upkeep of it is just too expensive for the amount of people that use it. So that is just a function of it. But I would never tell you to not use public transportation. It is one of the best things in the city, and one, it's very fun to implement. Two, your citizens love it, and three, your traffic will eventually be stretched to the point where you have to almost put it in. It will just really. It makes such a more positive impact on your city than really the profit numbers that we see here. So again, a lot of our expenses come from it too. 17.4% of our expenses are coming from public transportation. That's quite substantial indeed. Second to last is our tourism. So this kind of shows you where we get our tourism from, where people are shopping. They're shopping at commercial zones. They're spending a lot of money on public transportation, which makes sense because they're tourists, and in our park areas. We only have one real park that comes with like park life. Currently in the city. If we had more, this number might be a little bit higher. But you also can see sightseeing, bus tours, and other things like that. Not a lot of our income comes from tourism. That's kind of the nature of the game. That's pretty much always been that way as well. So, and then lastly here we have rolled tolls. And it shows you what we're making on small and large vehicles as they get priced two different ways. You will not make any money on your tolls. It's just the way it goes. You just won't. It's just kind of the nature of the game. The toll booths just don't charge enough, and the upkeep on it is so high. But, you know, make a little bit of money here and there, and it's a fun-looking feature. Okay, so the next panel over here is budget. This is a big one that almost no one uses at all. As you can see, I have everything just set at 100%. I don't really use it. I rarely touch this panel, and you're thinking, well, why would you make a video about something you don't really touch? Well, I think it's important to sort of discuss how this kind of operates and how you actually can use it, because there are some functionality in here that is worth using if you are in a pinch and need to make some cash. So one of the main things you'll probably end up using the most would be power and water. Those would be things that you would lower to your budget on if you had too much of it. It's also possible that you could lower things on some of your parks, but it does. The problem with the budget panel is the game is not really set up to lower things potentially for a sustained amount of time. It just becomes you're gonna have to kind of go in and out and in and out and in and out nitpicking things, because as you lower your budget on things, it will lower the amount of healthcare vehicles, fire trucks, police cars. It will also, if you lower your schools, it will lower the amount of students that people can teach, which can cause some serious issues in your city. Now, one of the main things about the budget panel, as you can see, is there is a day and night cycle. Now, generally speaking, when I do videos, I don't have the night cycle on. But if you were to have the night cycle on, you could manipulate things so that certain things are off during the day, or on during the day and off at night, right? So I could say, well, you know, I want people to learn during the day, but I'm gonna just shut this budget off completely at night if you have the day-night cycle running. Now, the problem with that is, and this is a reason what the game isn't really set up for, is if I was to do that, the problem is that educational buildings run 24/7. People are always going to school. Even with the day-night cycle on, at nighttime, you will still see high school students coming in and out, or, you know, elementary school students coming in and out of their schools. So if I turn the budget all the way down at night, they will get unhappy because they'll say, well, now I have no place to go to school, so I'm unhappy, and that will cause sad faces, and people will get upset, and you'll lose happiness, you'll lose money, income generation will go down, different things like that. So the game is just, it's not quite set up to manipulate a lot of this. And if you were to lower certain public transportation, simply what that does is lower the amount of vehicles that you are running. Now, I can see that if you were at night, let's say people aren't, you know, at night, maybe you notice that there are a little bit less people using your public transportation. You could lower your certain percentage to save a few bucks here and there. The issue is it's not always worth doing that just to save a few dollars here and there of your budget, because generally your budget is going to be okay. Now, what you can do though, and we have some people here that are screaming for power. Well, this is a great example. So our power right now, we are consuming 949 and we are producing 932. Okay, so if I was to pop down, let's go over here. I'm just gonna pop this down. Okay, so we will start to make, and when that goes online, now it produces 1171 and we're only consuming 930, okay? So in reality, what we can do is we can go into the budget panel and we could lower this. Oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to lower the day. We could lower the day down to, let's say, 80%. And let's see what that does. So click back on this. It will now lower our budget to 932, okay? But now, as you can see, we've just dipped. So, okay, we got to bring it back up. 80 is too low, so maybe we go 90%. And we'll see that now we have 951 available to us. Okay, so we will save, you know, we are paying, as you can see, our budget is, so if we go back to 100%, that puts us over 11,000. We're saving, oh, as it continues, like it's got to slowly tick back up. Yeah, we're saving like maybe about $400 or $500 per week, which can be substantial if you are running into some budget problems. Again, you could do the same thing with water too, right? If you have too much water production, our water is not that great though. But if you have an enormous amount of water that you're producing, but your citizens don't need that much, you can certainly lower those, and it will save you a few bucks. This can be very helpful when early game, when you're still trying to manage your budget and figure out how to get a positive income. You can certainly manipulate a lot of these things, and it can save you in a pinch. But relatively speaking, it sort of becomes just more of a hassle to come back in and adjust, constantly be adjusting your policy, your budget panel here for certain things. And again, the game, because everyone operates 24 hours a day, the game just really isn't quite there yet in terms of how to optimize that and make it work the best way. The budget panel is good. I encourage people to play around with it because I do think it is a valuable tool if used properly, and you might find some really interesting things that you can do with it. Seeing the cause and effect and how it operates within your city can be very, very interesting. I think it's worthwhile doing because it just kind of makes you understand your city a little bit better and how it operates. And the last panel here is your loans. Very simply, these are just loans that you can take. You get access to them at different milestones in the game. You can take the first loan's 20, second one is 60, and the last one is 200. And when you take it, it will show you your payment plan and the interest percentage and your weekly cost, and then how much you're actually spending on it total, which is nice. You can see that right here. If I take out the $60,000 loan, I'll end up paying $66,000 back. But these can be also very helpful early game, or when you have access to them. If you need a service really quickly, but you don't have enough money for it, take out a loan, pop down the services. That will make the citizens happy, and you'll make that money back in no time. But everybody, that is pretty much what I wanted to say about the budget panel. If you have any questions, comments, or thoughts about it, please do let me know down in the comment section below. And if you're interested in seeing more of the city, there will be a modded series. We're going to slowly start to add mods to the city and to see how mods work and how they start to improve our city. And that will be a tutorial video coming up in the near future. Thank you all so much for watching. I do muchly appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one here in City Skylines. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.